speech yourself. In order to give the speech yourself, and you want people to hear, you have to prepare yourself for a lot of different.
Sure.
This is the test. Come ready. You're going to be the Rav in the shul. You're going to be the rabbi. You're going to be the balkari. You're going to be the chazan. You're going to be the one to answer Amen.
Mulik, what's happened in the Knesset?
Forget.
I try not to listen. I try to keep myself busy with
Torah and mitzvot.
mitzvahs constantly. So this way I'm not busy with garbage. Not listening to every 2 minutes what's going on here, what's going on here.
Ashrecha.
This is better this way.
Rabbi Sai, do you hear me?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
So Rabbi Merazov last minute cannot give a shir, so he asked me to fill in for him.
Okay.
Good. We all
I
ready.
hope everything is okay.
Baruch Hashem. Everybody is breathing. Thank you, Hashem.
I don't know. Are you able to see me?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me see. What do I have to do here? Okay.
Now.
Okay, good. Now we see each other.
Okay. He's okay.
He sounded okay. He just said that he needed someone to take him over.
Okay.
I don't know. I hope everything's okay.
Hope so.
It's good you're ready. Baruch Hashem.
I hope I'm ready. Okay, yeah, I think we have some halachas we could discuss, important halachas for the Seder. Okay, so some of you were here last night, were listening, some weren't. But we'll discuss things which are independent of last night. Yeah, sure. So, Lamaisa, tonight when we have Kiddush, the night of the Seder, if it's possible, it's better the Balabai should not pour for himself. Someone else should pour for him the wine, like a derech cherus, as if like he has a servant. People serve each other the wine. Obviously, this is just something which is better. It's not a chiyuv. Now, interesting din. If we know we have to make a shechiyanu every Yom Tif and every mitzvah which comes from time to time. Just give me a second. Okay, so Rabbi say, we say a shechiyanu every Yom Tif. On Yom Tif we say the shechiyanu on Kiddush, the women have a custom that they say it when they light the Shabbos candles. What's interesting is the Yom Tif candles, right? The interesting thing is that there is no mucker. The Yavitz, Rabbi Yaakov Emden already pointed out, there is no source for this halacha that women have to light on the candles. We don't find it, say the shechiyah on the candles. We don't find this in Gemara or Rishonim. The women should be yaitza on Kiddush just like everyone else is yaitza on Kiddush. We don't find the Chazal that they instituted a shechiyanu on the Neira Shabbos Kodesh. He says that is the minig that we see that everyone has, that all the women have, and therefore you should leave it. So, Lamaisa, everyone is definitely yoitza. The women are definitely yoitza by saying it on there's no shayla yoitza, because a person could say shechiyanu anytime. If someone forgot to say shechiyanu during Kiddush, they forgot to say shechiyanu, the halacha is that you say it later on. Even if you remember the next day, you're walking on the street, you said, oh yeah, I forgot to say shechiyanu on Kiddush the night before, say Shechianu where you are. So l'chatchila we say it on the Kiddush. And you're supposed to say in the beginning when Yom Tif enters. However, if you didn't say it, you say it throughout the entire Yom Tif. So L'maisa, women, we don't know exactly where the minhag started, that they say the Shechianu on Neder Shabbos Kodesh. However, Api Halach, it's okay. They're saying it right when Yom Tov comes in, and there's no issue with it. Because we don't have a mucker for this minhag. It's an interesting minhag. And when I gave the men, if someone forgot for Shechianu, they should say it the next day. Now, the same thing as the second night. The second night, if someone forgot Shechianu the second night, even though he made the first night, he says it the entire Yom Tif. He says Shechianu. On the last days of Pesach, we don't say Shechianu. It's not like Shmini Atzeres, where we say a Shechianu. The last days of Pesach, Shvi Shal Pesach, Achin Shal Pesach, we don't say a Shechianu because it's Kriyas Yam Suf is a continuation of Yitzias Mitzrayim. It's all one Yom Tif.
Second night of Pesach is starting Sfiras Omer, no?
Second night.
And
Yes.
and if you forgot Shechianu, you can make Shechianu and Sfira.
Well, it's a good question. But so the halacha is, first of all, you're during Yom Tif. During Yom Tif, you're okay.
Oh.
Yom Tif, you like Cholamoid, people have music, and we don't anoix the minhagim asfiras oimer till after Pesach. But I want to point out something else. We one time spoke in Shir, maybe in the summertime, that anytime you have a chiyuv to make a shechianu, you have to make it even during Sfiras Omer, even during the 3 weeks. The idea of not saying a shechianu is a minhag. For example, if someone had a baby girl, so you're supposed to say a shechianu when one has a baby girl, and if someone had in the Sfiras Omer or the 3 weeks, one has to say it because you have a chiyuv to say shechianu. It's only that one should not bring oneself into a situation where one is to bring oneself into an obligation. For example, to buy a new fruit or buy new clothing and put yourself into a matzav where you need to say a shechianu. That you should avoid. But if Ninash Shemayim, you had a pidyon haben, or you had a girl or something else, Min HaShamayim, you should make Not only that, there are shittas that hold, interesting, that if you have a fruit that you will not have, a new fruit comes your way, and you're not able to preserve it. Those they didn't have refrigeration. It's not a preservable fruit. It's going to get spoiled. So Lamaisa, there are shittas that hold that you're allowed to make the shechianu during the 9 days, during Sfiras Omer, because you need to chaparayin and not lose out the chance to make the bracha. But again, this is only in a case when you find yourself such a situation where you have to make the shechianu, or you're going to lose the opportunity to make a shechianu. One shouldn't bring oneself into a situation we should make a shechianu. By the way, just parenthetically, we're having a parenthetical discussion here, that the idea of not making shechianu is based on the fact that these days of Sfiras Omer or the days of Bein HaMetzarim are considered negative days. They're Yemei Hadin. They're days of Gvura, and negative things happen those days. The reason why negative things happen those days is because those days itself are intrinsically negative days. They have a shaykhis to din and to Gvura. They're not days of Chesed and Rachamim. And therefore, we don't want to say Shechianu, we're not happy that we are brought Lizman Hazeh. We don't want to have this man as man of Gvura. So the Nusach of Shechianu was a troublesome Nusach, and that's why the minhag is not to make Shechianu. It's a parenthetical thing. So getting back to our discussion, Pesach, the first 2 days we make a Shechianu, the last 2 days we don't, because Kriyas Yam Suf is a direct continuation of Yitzias Mitzrayim. It's part and parcel of one Yom Tiv. Masha'enkin Shmini Atzeres is considered a regular b'fnei atzmai from Sukkot, and therefore you have to make another Shechianu. So L'mais, if you forgot the second night Kiddush to make the Shechianu, you have the rest of Yom Tiv, or the rest of 7 days to say the Shechianu. In Indian, you can do Meftzayim. You meet a Yid, ask him, did you say Shechianu? If you didn't, you can tell him to say Abricha Shechianu. Some noise over there in the background. Okay, it's a little better now.
Hey,
Now-
turn off the speaker. If you're supposed to turn off the speaker, we won't have noise.
Okay, you know what? I'll mute everyone, and if someone wants to say a question, he should just unmute himself.
Okay.
Or pick up your hand and I'll unmute you.
Okay.
Do you hear me? Raise your hand if you hear me. Okay, good. So
Okay.
now someone forgot Shehechiyanu Kiddush. It's not a common shaila, but if someone forgot to make Kiddush at night, just like Shabbos Kiddush, you can make Tashluма the next day. What does that mean? And instead of by day Kiddush, by the day Kiddush, all we do is a Bayer Piyagafen. Both by Yantam and Shabbos, we just say a Bayer Piyagafen. We say some psukim before, Eilo Maya Day, on Shabbos we say Yem Hashishi, and those Zachar, Yem Shabbos Lakachi, those psukim are just a minig. They're not ma'akev at all. The Iker Kiddush by day of both Yantav and Shabbos is just a plain Bayer Piyagafen. However, the night Kiddush, we actually have a special Berchas HaKiddush, Mekadesh HaShabbos on Shabbos, and a Yantav we have Mekadesh Yisrael V'Hazmanim. So the special bracha. So if one, for some reason, forgot to say Kiddush the night before, or he wasn't able to make Kiddush, he wasn't feeling well, whatever the story was, someone could have a situation, his stomach is on a Friday night, something his stomach is upset, he can't make Kiddush, he goes to sleep, he sleeps for the night. The next day, when he makes Kiddush by day, he's supposed to add the bracha of the Kiddush by night, because he has Tashlumin. The same thing as with Yom Tiv. You have Tashlumin for Kiddush the next day. But if you forgot to say Haggadah at night, to make the Seder, you don't have any chance to say Haggadah the next day, because Haggadah, the Torah says, Bavur Zeh, you're supposed to say the Haggadah, you have to have Matzah Mara in front of you. Matzah Mara, you're only chayiv at night. And by day, you're not chayiv Matzah Mara, and therefore you can't make up the Haggadah. Interesting halacha that there was once someone who was Nebach, the Goyim put him in jail, and this is discussed in the early Achronim.
Here.
You hear me? You hear me? Yeah? Okay. There was a mice, there was someone who was chapped by Goyim in jail, and he didn't know how to say the Haggadah Baal Peh, but he had a chumash with him. So he said all the parshiyos of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And this story is brought down in halacha. He opened up the chumash, and he read Parshas Boi, and he read the psukim, Va'era Boi, the talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Makis, and the Geula, and that was the way he was yoytze the Haggadah. So someone doesn't have an Haggadah, that's what you tell him to do. Open up a Bible, open up a chumash, and start reading. Read the psukim, and you're yoytze the Haggadah, the diavad.
Hello?
Yes. Now, one can drink as much wine as one wants during the Seder, during the meal. As long as you don't need to make a Bayer Piyagafen. You're always, the rule is, we spoke a little bit last night, that you're allowed to drink another cup of wine if you do not need to make a Bayer Piyagafen. If you need to make a Bayer Piyagafen on a kois, then we have an issue, because it seems like you're adding to the Dalet koises. You're saying like a fifth kois, a sixth kois. What I mean is, like, say after the first kois, you're not planning on having a second kois till later on after the Haggadah. You finish the Haggadah, then you say al second kois, Birchas Asher Galanu. So therefore, since you're not planning and saying another Bari Piragafen, if you want to drink another cup, you're going to have to make another Bari Piragafen, because that's the halacha. Nothing to do with Pesach, has to do with Birchas Hanen in the Dinim of Brachis, that if you have only in mind to drink this cup, and you don't think at all you're going to have to drink another cup, and then you change your mind, you want to drink more, you have to make a second bracha. So when you have to make a second bracha, we're going to have an issue over here, because you're going to have to, it's going to seem like you're adding a second cup to the Dalet Koises. Yes. Now regarding karpas, I want to discuss a little karpas. The reason why we eat karpas is in order that the children should see that we're doing something interesting that's not regular. No one usually eats vegetables like this and dips vegetables into either salt water or vinegar, and therefore it's going to bring them to ask questions. Visit the Mikayim ki yisholcha bincha machar leimar, that the Haggadah has to be that of Shaila and Shuvah. So, Lamaisa, you don't need to eat. We don't eat a kazayis of the karpas. You don't need to eat a kazayis, and you shouldn't eat a kazayis because you get into different shilas about the bracha achrayna and different things. You should just eat a small piece. If you did eat a kazayis, a little piece, more than a kazayis, you shouldn't make a bar nefashis, because when you eat the kazayis, you have in mind the maror. When you eat the karpas, you have a bar piadama, you have in mind the maror you can eat later. There's a machlokes whether or not you need to be patur the maror with a bar piadama, or the maror is your yoitza. You don't have to make a bracha on the maror because it's the middle of the meal, because it's after hamoitzi. So some say the maror is considered part of the meal. Some say no, the maror is not part of the meal. This is something unique. You're not having maror is not normally part of a meal, so you're not yoitza the bracha. So because of this, when we make the bar piadam and the karpas, we have in mind the maror, and therefore we don't want to have to. But it's not so pashit that your maror needs the bracha of the bar piadama. Therefore, if the maror needs the bar piadama, your bracha achrayna, if you would have had a kazayis, would be the benching that you're benching on the maror, because it's all one eating the arba maror. However, if you do not need to pater the maror with your bar piadama, because making hamaitzi on it makes you pater from saying a bracha, then your karpas has nothing to do with your maror, and you need to have a bar nefashis afterwards. So because of this machlokes, not to get into any issues, we don't eat a kazayis or the karpas. If you did, you don't make a bar nefashis, because there's a shita which says that you're patering the maror with this bar piadama, and the maror, the benching covers for the maror and the karpas. So you don't make a bar nefashis if you did. Even someone who's sitting alone in their house and there's no children still needs to dip in the karpas, because Chachamim did not make any differentiation. When they made a takana, they said this is for all the Klal Yisrael, the same thing. So even the original takana was based on a certain reason which does not apply to that person's situation, the halacha applies in all cases. Obviously, according to Kabbalah and the Nistar of Torah, there are other reasons which are applicable for everyone. Now, karpas, the minig is to take certain vegetables, certain types of vegetables. There are different minhagim and different kilos which vegetables to take. We take an onion. If someone it's too much for them to take an onion, they take a potato. But l'chatchila, one should try to take a piece of an onion. In Lubavitch Beis Harav, they would say that the ladies take a potato, but the men, they do an onion. Now, however, right, a raw onion.
My spare was by the Frierdiker Rebbe.
If one does not have
onions.
What did he have?
Little onions, the little ones. That's what he was the bacher in charge of the Seder that year, and he had a Seder for my spare that the Frierdiker Rebbe used pearl onions, the small ones.
The whole one he used, right?
Yeah, the whole ones, not big ones, the little
Right.
little onions.
Right. I've heard. Yeah, shkoyach. I've heard that the Rebbe also would use a whole onion. Most people obviously don't do that, but the reason why they would do that seems to be because it's not a din of the karpas, but a din in birchas hanenin that you should make a brach on a shalom. Like it's better to make hamaitzi on a complete bilkala, a complete roll. If you have a shalom and a prusa, a slice, you should take the shalom and make a hamaitzi on the shalom. Now the same din is when it comes to the vegetables. He wanted to make a bracha. Seems like the Rebbeim want to make a bracha on a whole vegetable, and after the bracha they would slice off a small piece. But this was a chumrah that they did. That they had a whole. Now, Lamaisa, someone does not have the karpas that they have a minute to use. Whatever vegetable they have a minute to use, they don't have that karpas. You could use any vegetable you want. As long as it's not from the vegetables that you yoytza maror with. There are 5 vegetables that you yoytza maror with. It should not be one of those, unless you have no choice. If you don't have any choice, you'll take maror. But obviously we have other vegetables. You can just take another vegetable, any vegetable, you yoytza karpas. So it's just a shadow of a
separate from the maror, because it's something separate, a different thing than the maror on the sefer. There's the maror and there's the karpas. If it's the same thing, you're missing one of the things on the seder plate. You're missing some.
Right. Only in a case where someone didn't have any karpas, he forgot to buy any vegetables, and he could take that. So he has maror, then he could take maror. But one should just take any vegetable and use it, because with any vegetable it's just a minhag to use certain vegetable called karpas, and the reason is because karpas stands for perech samach. Samach 60 stands for 60 times 10,000, which is 600,000. Perech means we're serving hard labor. The men were working hard labor in Mitzrayim, and that's the siman in karpas.
One more just quick question. If you spray priya dama karpas, now you didn't have the right kavanah to have it for the mar. So now you have a shaila. What do you do?
You don't make a brach on the mar, because it's possible that the mar was you were yoytz the mar with the birchas hamazon, because with hamaitzi, because it's part of the suda.
So you're saying because it's a suffix bracha is the cooler, because it's a suffix, so we're not going to say the bracha again, because that's how, by dine brachas, that's how we paskin. You better not to say it.
Yeah, l'maisa, by the way, I mean, I think that even if someone didn't directly have a kavanah, it's automatic that this is part of the seder that the bracha on the karpas goes in the maror. So even if someone didn't, I don't know if you have to have a dafke kavanah, because this is the seder of the evening. This is what everyone does, and this is the seder how it's set up. So I would think that he would be yoytze in any case.
I hear what you're saying. It could be a shaila on the marif that you say any bracha dama at all. If you didn't have that karpas, who says that you're going to have a bitter? This is not something, and you're only eating it. It's something which, if the type of mar you're eating isn't lettuce, it's mamish, like the Rebbe did, he was makbar on both, you mamish have that thing. It's not something which it's hardly edible to you. It's worse. It causes you pain. Who says that you would say any bracha at all? Maybe it's better you don't say any bracha and just have that
Actually, it's true. It's not poshut that you make bracha on maror, because if these are not edible, some of the marors, the lettuce is one thing, but the chrein, if it's not a food that's eaten, it's not roi lachila the way it is, you don't make a bracha on it. So it's not 100%. That's mentioned in Paskim, that if the maror is a type of vegetable that people don't eat, that you don't make a bracha in it. I don't think anyone eats chrein the way it is.
No.
A whole year. Although, if people make horseradish, but horseradish is already, you've done something to it and you've changed it. So it's a different status.
Like mamish would have a piece, not even shredded. The way he had his mar. It was makbid not even have to shred it, because it could already, some of that sharpness everything could go off. So he had that too, but he also had a chunk of ungraded, unshredded mar.
Correct. Yes, I've heard similar, and that was for that reason, because according to certain shittas, that the Chavas Das and Haggadah Maisa Nisim writes that graded mar you're not yoitza, it takes away the sharpness. So Maisa, the poskim do not paskin like him. That's why the minute Klal Yisrael is to be makel. But a Rebbe is a Rebbe. Right. The Rebbe was a Rebbe and had different chumras that he did. And, the Tavel Bracha, someone who wants to take a little piece, but not everyone can manage with the Chrein. So, not something the Rebbe does is something to learn from, but it's not necessarily something we have to personally do. But definitely something to ma'ayin as to why he did it. I mentioned one time the Rebbe's on Haga to a Rav in Borough Park. He told me, the Rebbe was chayshish for the Maisa Nisim, the Haggadah from the Chavas Das. Most Gedolei Yisrael wrote their own Haggadahs with their own biurim and halachis. The Alter Rebbe wrote a Haggadah, and the Rebbe himself made biurim and Haggadah, and a lot of Gedolei Yisrael wrote Haggadahs. There's large collections of Haggadahs. Some people have collections of collectible items of Haggadah throughout the generations. There's actually an infamous Haggadah, I should say, a very expensive old Haggadah. I forgot what it's called, but by Marer Zu is a picture of him pointing to his wife and saying Marer Zu. Don't repeat this at home. Now, the Maisa is, one of the old Shiloh says, why do we have the Kaira? Why do we have the Kaira, the matzah in front of us during the whole Suda? When the matzah, I need the matzah, I'll take the matzah out from the kitchen. When it comes to Maitzi matzah, I'll take the matzah out. When I need the maror, I'll take the maror out. Why did he have everything here in front of me in the beginning? The reason is that the Haggadah, we said before, needs to be said over the matzah and the maror. The matzah, the maror, and the charises have to be in front of you. So there's reasons why we want them all on the Seder plate. The matzah, we learn out from the pasuk, it says, lechem oini, the Torah says. Literally means a poor man's bread. But we are doirish. The Chacham expound, oini also comes from the word oinim, answer, saying, repeating. This is the bread, the lechem she'oinim ala darim harbi. It's the bread that we say on it a lot of things. Because we say the Haggadah over the matzah. And really, me'ikar hadin, it would have been enough just to have the prusa, the middle matzah, just to have the middle matzah, which is the lechem oini. It's a broken piece. We break it, so you should have a broken piece, because a poor man doesn't have a complete matzah. He has a broken piece. So you should make the bracha on the broken piece. Now, however, the minig is that we bring all the three matzahs before. This is already mentioned in Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch itself does not explain why. In the Rebbe's Haggadah, he points out that this is a very old, ancient question, which was asked in the Gaonim's times. That means before the Rishonim. There was a city of Kiroyin, and the people of Kiroyin wrote a shayla to Rav Shviri Goyin. Shalo Anshi Kiroyin Rav Shviri Goyin. They wrote him a shayla. Loma loikin gimel matzos b'leilei psachim le'pachas yosef. Why do we take 3 matzos? Not more, not less. The shayla is, what's this question? Why we take 3 matzos? Pashat, why we take 3 matzos? You need to have 2 matzahs for lechem mishnah. You need to have a 3rd matzah, in order to have the prusa, the lechem money, the one you make yachatz. That's your yoitza, your kazayis matzah on. There's 2 are there from a whole year. You have lechem mishnah, and the 3rd is for the mitzvah matzah of the evening. And another question we have on this tshuva of Shir Goyim. What was their question? They asked, Lama loichin gimel matzahs b'leil. Why would I think you should take even more than 3 matzahs? Should I take 4 or should I take 5? So Shiri Gaon answered, the reason is Keneged our Gimel Avis of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Another reason is Keneged the Gimel Soyin, the Gimel measurements of matzah that Avram served the Malachim. So there are different remazim, different things symbolic in the 3 matzahs. on the table. So Lamaisa, Eina Chanami, we need 3 matzahs for 2 lechem mishnah and 1 for the prusa, the broken matzah, for the mitzvah matzah. For those 3, we could have brought out the lechem mishnah later on by the meal. The main thing we need to have on the table when we're saying that God is the middle matzah, the broken piece, it's the lechem she'oinim alom daram harbi. That's the lechem oini. The other 2 are there as a zecher for other things. That we should have the schus of Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov by our seder, to memory of the malachim, the suda with Avraham Avinu, different things that this reminds us of. However, mitzad the dinim of lechem mishnah, we don't need it now. We could have left it in a box and taken it out when it comes to Moitzi Matzah. So the reason why I bring the 3 is for other reasons. It's for a zeicher, for a different, and that's why I bring all 3 to have them in the beginning of the Haggadah. Be'ikar hadin, you just need to have the broken piece, the prus of the middle matzah. The minig is we have all 3 already recorded in Shulchan Aruch, and for zeicher for different reasons. The charaisis, we also have...
You could have one matzah, like during the Milchama and other times when there was limited in amount, even if no matter what, they said that they were telling, like even like now, don't be machmir to take when there's limited amounts of matzahs for everyone. There are tekanas which says everyone should only have 1 matzah.
Right. Is there any shortage of matzah this year? I haven't heard anything.
No, but there's shortages. There's other tekanas nothing to do with the matzahs. There's an abundance of matzahs. But I'm just saying it to remind me it was a different tekufa, like it was an era where there was different than any other time. That's why.
Yeah, definitely in Europe and during the war and pre-war, matzahs was not something that people baked for themselves and their family just the amount of matzahs they needed. It wasn't like today where people go and buy into the store. You just walk into any local grocery store and you can pick out from 10 different types of matzahs that you have such a variety. People baked, first of all, there was no concept of matzah bakeries. People baked their own matzahs. Everyone in their own home baked their own matzahs. Matzah bakeries is a more modern concept, which is much, I'm not sure exactly when, but in this generation, matzah bakery started. Definitely for Shmura matzah. Machine matzah started a little earlier, maybe 100 years ago, 150 years ago, started the concept of machine matzah. But the concept of Shmura matzah bakeries was not something that was a regular concept. So this is a big bracha that we're able to just have matzahs like this. Not only that, it's interesting, I think the Chassam Sofer would actually bake his matzahs after he came home from shul, after davening Ma'ariv, the night of Pesach. They would go home and make fresh matzahs right for that night. Just for that night, bake whatever you need for that night. You're allowed to bake on Yom Tiv, take out the matzahs and make some matzahs for the Seder, just for that night, whatever you need. Now, the reason why we bring charaisis on the Kaira early is because charaisis is zeicher latit. It looks a little bit cementy. It's to remind us of the cement that our forefathers were working hard with in Mitzrayim. As well, we have apples in there to remind us about the apple trees and how there was shalom bayis by the apple trees during Yetzias Mitzrayim. In the times of the Beis HaMikdash, they would also bring the carbon Pesach on the Seder plate, on the Kaira, during the Miras Haggadah. However, now we have 2 tafshilin to commemorate the karbanis we had then. We have one for Zeicha for the carbon Pesach. We have the neck of the chicken that we use. And one is a Zeicha for the carbon Chagiga that was also brought. This night of Pesach, you had to bring a carbon Chagiga. This was eaten before the carbon Pesach. And this was in order that the carbon Pesach should be the last thing you eat at night, which satiates you. It's nechel ala soiva. So you're supposed to have some chagiga meat, and then you're supposed to have the carbon Pesach. That's what we say in the Haggadah, at the ending, before we eat the second kos, v'noichel sham min hazvachim apsachim, that we should be zoicha next year to eat from the zvachim and the psachim. The zvachim means the karbanis of the chagiga, and the min apsachim is the carbon Pesach. So in order to commemorate the two,
sometimes you say,
right.
They say the minhag. Sometimes Shabbos you say you switch it around. You say minhag.
Say the opposite. You say the opposite order. Now, the Lamaisa, we have an egg for the egg is to a zeicher for the carbon chagiga. It's not meat, but it's the reason is because in our Aramaic, the word beya is beitza is a beya. That's why we say beya. Beya means an egg, and beya also means baya. Baya rachmana. We're asking Hashem. It means asking, like we have in the Gemara. Baya Rabbi Yirmiyah. But comes to the word asking. We're asking Hashem to take us out from the gullus. And you can make it whichever way you want to make the egg. Me'ikar hadin, it could be any way you want. You can make it cooked. You could roast it, whichever way you want to do it. Now, the way how we make the zroya is we do it sli eish. We do it over the fire, like they did the carbon Pesach. So what we do is we put it over, usually we put it over the grates. People usually put it on a fork. You stick your fork into the zroya, you hold it over the fire on your stovetop, flip it around. After 2-3 minutes, after 2 minutes, your thing is roasted, and you do the next one, however many you need. That's how people make the zroyas. Someone told me of an idea where he puts it into the broiler. He takes a pan, and he puts in a bunch of zroyas, and he puts into the broiler. If someone doesn't have the time and it's difficult, you can do that. Well, it's definitely better to take it with the fork over the fire. It's mamish over the fire. It's liesh. We don't eat from this meat at night of Pesach because our minig is, even in places where the minig is that they eat roasted night of Pesach, we don't eat from it because it's a zeicher to the carbon Pesach. We don't want to show like we're eating the carbon Pesach. Bichlal, some people have the minig to eat tzli, roast on the night. Some people don't because they don't want to make any comparison to carbon Pesach. Our minig is we don't have any roasted foods on the night of Pesach. Therefore, we make the foods in liquid. It shouldn't be without liquid. Even tzli keder, which means roasting in its own juice, without any external juice, its own juice in a pot, one should not do. So therefore, no roast at all, except for the zroya, which we don't eat. Now the zroya should have a little meat on it, because if it doesn't have any meat, it's not considered a tafshel, a food. It's just a bone. So you don't eat bones for the carbon Pesach. You need to have a little meat on it. Now, what Shalom, you were mentioning before about the carbon chagiga on a Matzah Shabbos. When Pesach night falls on Matzah Shabbos, it's not applicable this year, but we still mention the chagiga, carbon chagiga. The reason why we still, even though we don't bring a carbon chagiga, because you cannot shecht and bring the carbon chagiga on Shabbos. So Erev Pesach is Shabbos, means the first night of the Seder is Matzah Shabbos. Only the carbon Pesach is Doicha Shabbos. The carbon Chagiga is not Doicha Shabbos. Still, we still mention the Zvachim on the Kaira, and we still mention Zvachim in the Haggadah, because the whole thing is only a Zeicher. It's just a memory. So if it's not for this year, it's a memory for a year when we could bring it. Now, regarding on the Zoya, Lubavitch is, so it should look like a Korban Pesach. They're makbid to burn it and to take most of some of the meat of the flesh off also. So there's very little left. I assume it's to make that complete differentiation, so no one should make a mistake also and say that it has anything to do with the Korban Pesach. Correct. But we still always make sure to leave on some meat, otherwise you're not yaitza. It's like if you have nothing on the zroya. So people, not everyone around the table needs a kaira. Only the balabayis who's leading the seder needs a kaira in front of him, and everyone is yaitza with that, having the kaira on the table from the balabayis. However, a lot of people do want to have the kaira. There's nothing wrong if they want to have their own kaira They want to mechanech people. They want to give out other people kairos, but you don't have to. I'm just letting you know it's not a chiyuv. And not everyone needs to have their own 3 matzahs in front of them. It's an expensive thing, and not everyone can afford to have. Everyone should have their own kaira. Someone wants to have a few things in front of them. It's more easier. It's a shopping bag. It's all right in front of you. Okay, very nice. You give them a little piece of matzah. They're ashamed. But the ikar thing is about a bayis, and if other people want to have and they have 3 matzahs, kol hakavod, very nice. But you're not chayiv to do it.
Minik Beis HaRav was only the Rebbe, and only Beis HaRav had the full Seder plate with the 3 matzahs.
Yeah, shkoyach.
Yes.
Now there is a whole Seder where we put the different things in the kaira. According to certain poskim, you have to put in an order where whatever you need to come on to first is in front of you. Because the din of aim avin al mitzvah, you're not allowed to pass over one mitzvah to another mitzvah. It's sort of like you're being mavaza the mitzvah. You have a chance to do a mitzvah, you're skipping it over. So you have to put closer to you what's needed first. However, l'maisa, there are shittas which say it's not an issue because, like marer, it's not chaviv to a person. A person is not like marer. So there's no din kadima in Birchas Hanenin that you should have. The din by Birchas Hanenin is that chaviv, whatever you like more, you're supposed to eat first to make the bracha. Marer is not chaviv. So therefore, it wouldn't be an issue of Eim Avin al mitzvahs, as well as the chazeres for the koirech, which is also marer. It wouldn't be an issue. And the charoisis you don't really eat. So because of these different reasons, Eim Avin al mitzvahs is not really an issue. And therefore, we rely on that shita and we go according to Kabbalah. Shulchan Aruch already mentions that based on Kabbalah, there's a certain order of how the Seder place should be set up. And since in Nigla, in Shulchan Aruch itself, there are poskim that hold there is no issue of Eim Avin al mitzvahs, we rely on that shita and we go according to Kabbalah. That there is a certain Seder because of Eim Avin al mitzvahs, but there's a shita that holds it's not an issue, and we rely on that shita because the Mukabalim hold that there's a special Seder how it should be set up, so we follow the Mukabalim in this case. Now I want to just discuss a little bit about what things are yoytze maror with. So today, people know we have 2 types of vegetables that we have, the romaine lettuce, and we have the chrein, the horseradish. That's what we have for the Seder. However, in reality, there are another 3 types. The Mishnah says there are 5 types of vegetables that you yoytze maror with. There are endives, and there's a vegetable called maror. I don't know what all of these things mean, what the Shulchan Aruch mentions. There's different, you have to know languages. It mentions a lot of different languages, what they're called. But the other 2, I don't know exactly what they are. Now, Lamaisa, all these 5 can be combined together for one kazayis. You don't need to have a kazayis of each. For Lamashal, you want to have some romaine lettuce and some chrein. They're both together. You can mitzaref them both together to a kazayis. You don't need to have a kazayis of each one. Both of the romaine lettuce and both of the chrein. You can have mainly the romaine lettuce and a sprinkle of the chrein. That's fine. All together, it's a kazayis, it's good enough. We know the Rebbe was more makbid for his Seder, and the Rebbe took a large amounts of maror. It seemed that he took Reb Shalom will confirm this, but what I heard from people that were there, that the Rebbe took an entire, he took some chrein, he put it inside romaine lettuce, he wrapped it up like a ball, and then he did like you said, you heard from Yeshver, he took a chunk and he stuck into the ball chunk, he ate a big bowl of maror. But this is something the Rebbe did, al pi halacha, you have one kazayis of maror, it's siruf for both of them together, and you're perfectly fine. If someone can't have chrein, he could just eat romaine lettuce. Romaine lettuce, actually, according to the halacha, romaine lettuce is called chazeres. Chazeres is more important. It's a mitzvah and a mufcher to dafke over what's called tamcha, over chrein.
Well, you have to be careful with the bugs in that. There's so many bugs. You have to wash it so good.
Correct. You have to look at the Erev Pesach. One of the avodas to do is to look over wash it and look over the lettuce.
Light. We had a big light that we used to. My father used to wash it good and look up on the light, and it looked clear. It was okay. And some Rabbanim, they cut off the sides. They only use the middle.
Yeah.
It's Hadis Shaila, right?
They have Ale Katif now you can use.
Yeah. It's still selling, the Ale Katif?
Yeah, last year they sold it. This year, I don't know.
Usually when it's washed well and you give a look at it, it's usually fine. If you wash it well, you still have to take a look at it, but it's usually good.
But some people the minig, they're not makbid on the romaine at all, and it's made by the from the Litvische Yidden and Rosh Yeshivas first came. Plain iceberg lettuce is what they used. A lot of them used for maror.
Interesting.
Could be that's how they teached ensign. It could be that's enough how they teached the different ways the Shulchan Aruch describe it is. Could be that's how they learned out that's what it means, and they don't have to not necessarily look for the romaine lettuce.
I'll tell you something interesting. I want to tell you two things. Number one, the reason why it's a mitzvah mufchar to take the lettuce, the lettuce is because the Shulchan Aruch calls it salat. Chazares shekoyin salat.
Yeah.
Now, in Ashkenaz, in German, it's salat, and in Spanish, it's salata. And it gives all the different names how it's called. Now, Lamaisa, the reason why it's more mitzvah mufchar is because the chazaris, the longer it sits in the ground, it gets bitter. In the beginning, it's sweet. When we taste it, it tastes fine. It's sweet. There's no bitterness to the romaine lettuce. When it sits in the ground, this stem gets very bitter. So Lamaisa, that was what happened when we were Mitzrayim. It started off beferach, like Chazal say beforech, beferach. They started off with a sweet tongue. They paid us to work, and they said, "Yeah, don't worry, we're going to pay you." And it was benefits, and you got all the insurance, whatever you wanted. And then slowly they moved everyone off of the benefits and everything, and they kept them as slaves. So Lamaisa started off sweet and ended up bitter. So therefore, the chazares, even when we're eating it, we don't taste any bitterness to it. Still in all, we're yaitza because this is a zeicher to the concept of beferach, that it was sweet in the beginning and bitter at the ending. However, it only grows in warm climates. It's not a root vegetable. It's something that grows in warm climates. Cold climates cannot grow lettuce. The mice in Europe, for hundreds and hundreds of years, they never had lettuce. They only ate grain. This is what was until we came to America, and people came to Eretz Yisrael after the war. Our grandparents did not have never ate romaine lettuce in their life, and they never saw it. Now, this is something Middle Eastern countries had and other countries, but in Europe they didn't have it. And look, Lamaisa, the chrein, I myself experienced this because as a young bacher, we went to make a seder in Russia, and I didn't know anything about the climate there, what grows there, what didn't grow. And the first time we were there, we went to the marketplace with some of the local Jewish people there were helping us to get the stuff for the seder, and we took out a little dictionary, and we're trying to translate from what we need to buy for the seder. They brought us to a marketplace, like they had the shuk, the olden times, and we're trying to find romaine lettuce, and they don't know what we're talking about. This was like, it wasn't in Moscow, it was like in a small town, a small place, a 3-hour drive away. So they didn't have everything that the big cities have. I'm sure in Moscow you can get whatever you want, but in this little town, they didn't know what it was, and we just had chrein. All you had, the chrein they had, it was in the marketplace, you could buy chrein. That's a vegetable that's sold in the market. It's not like by here where we just get it at Pesach time. Over there, they're doing something with it. I don't know what they're doing with it, but it's in the market. So,
I was going to say, my Zayda came from Russia, who was Lubavitch. My Zayda came over to Montreal young age. When he first came and they saw people serving lettuce, he almost fainted. He said, people eat animal, it's like animal food. in Russia, this is considered, someone saw this.
I can't hear you.
Behema. They would say it's Michael Behema.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah,
So you see how times change. So Lamaisa, Al Pishuch on Orech Chazaris is better, but they didn't have it available. So now we have it. So therefore, what we do is we mainly have the romaine lettuce. That's the mitzvah mufcher. However, since we had a minig that our forefathers always had maror, we do take a little bit of chrein. We take a little bit of chrein, which is called tamcha and Shulchan Aruch in the Mishnah. We do take some of the chrein. Another reason to take a little bit is because you're not yoitza unless you take it when it's bitter. When it's left in the ground, the romaine lettuce, and you have it when the stem is bitter. Because you have to actually feel a merirus befiv. You have to feel maror. The Pri Chadash holds this way. You're not yoitza with the chazaris at the early stage. L'maisa, the Poskim don't hold that way. But to be yoitza the Pri Chadash shishita, so we take a little bit. We don't have a kazayis. That's a good kasha. That's why the Rebbe himself was machmer on himself. I'm not suggesting anyone to do this, but he was machmer on himself that he took a full kazayis of each. L'chura was because he was being machmer to both. The shita, the Pri Chadash, she wanted to have the chrein, to have the bitterness, the merirus of the kazayis, but he also wanted the milo chazeres of having beferach and the chazaris the way it's sold wheat. So you have a bitter chazaris, so you can't get both in one. If you have the chazaris once it's bitter, you have both in one. You have both milas. You have it's bitter, and also you have the zeicher to beferach. It's a vegetable that was sweet in the beginning, and now it's bitter. However, the way it's sold, it's not bitter. So therefore, he took both. L'chora, that's the reason. That's what I saw someone write one time to explain. However, we take a little bit. I want to tell you something very interesting. My Zaydel of Shalom was born in Russia and in Ukraine. He took from maror only a little bit of maror. He didn't take a full kazayis. My father told me that it always bothered him. What do you mean? The halach is you take a kazayis. How come he's always taking a little bit? Well, Amaisa, in Svarim, it's explained, and my father understood it later on, he saw it himself. There was a minig in Europe, in different places, that people took chrein. From the chrein, they took only a little bit less than a kazayis. Reason being like this. Very interesting. There are certain kehilas today that they make kiddush on Shabbos with a little cup of schnapps. By Shabbos, by day, they go to the kiddush, and in certain Hungarian places, different circles, in Chassidish circles, they will pull out a little kelishka, those little plastic cups, which don't have a revius to it, and they make kiddush on that little cup. There's no revius. Maybe there's 1 ounce there. It's not a revius according to any shita. So Lamaisa, there's an interesting shita of the Taz that when it comes to the dinim, not of kiddush, a birchas hanenin, a brachas, that even though for a normal drink, in order to make a bracha achreina, a bar nefashis, you need a revius. In order to make ala gefen, you need a revius of yayin or grape juice. However, when it comes to schnapps, to whiskey, you don't need a full revius to make a bar nefashis. What's the reason of the Taz? Taz is like this. Why do we dafka have the shir revius for all drinks to make a bar nefashis? Because a shir revius is a shir. The Chazal estimated that a person gets a certain amount of satiation from it. He feels like he had a drink. He just took a little. It's not a sip. It's actual drink. It constitutes the minimum amount to constitute a drink. Just taking a little sip of something is not considered a drink. It doesn't fill you up. You don't feel like you drank enough. So therefore, revius is the shir. When it comes to schnapps, when it comes to mashke, like the Taz says, yayin saraf, burning wine, that's how it was called, yash in a Rasha Tevis, or yayin saraf, whiskey. Since people don't drink a full revius, you take a little bit of l'chaim, you take a little bit of schnapps, it gives you a chayis. That's how they did it. They took a little bit, and it gave them some energy in Europe. So they didn't drink a full revius. That was not the steiger of a drink when you drink an alcoholic beverage. The Taz held, therefore, it's not lahalacha l'maisa the Taz, but the Taz held that you don't need a revius to make a bar nefashis on less than a revius when it comes to whiskey and schnapps. I'm not clear on the exact shear, but that's what he says. Based on that,
it's a bracha nehenin. The bracha, he said, it's kedusha rabbah is bracha nehenin. Bracha nehenin on whiskey is equated. The bracha is equated to having the shear on more. It's the same thing of having a small amount. Is the same thing as the bracha nehenin kedusha rabbah of the shear. You don't need this. You don't need the shear for the mashke. Everyone's being
basically we're relying on that. We're being soymech. They're being soymech. Those kehilas were had
on the Taz. He's the core for it.
Right. They had a minig like the Taz. Therefore, they just like for bar nefashis, it's enough. So too for kiddush, take a little cup of schnapps. Our kehilas ad hayom hazeh that do this, and after Shabbos they sit down. They make a shahakoni b'dvari. In Lubavitch in Russia, the Russians would take a full cup of mashke if they're making. But in other circles, in these circles, they would take a little cup. The Shuvas Mahasham from Shalom Mordechai Berjan, the Berjan Rav, Shalom Mordechai Shverdan, he writes in the Shuvas Mahasham that the Rapshitzer would do this, and other tzaddikim, Naftali of Rapshitz, other tzaddikim would do this. And he says it's based on this Taz. So Lamaisa, similarly, there was a minig in Europe that the same idea applies to not only to drinks, but to food. Food like maror. Maror is a bitter food. So it's not normal to take a full kazayis. Someone's having something bitter, he's taking a hot pepper, he's taking something bitter, he just takes a little piece. And that's considered the shear for a small piece. So therefore, there was a minig that they would have a small shear of maror, they wouldn't have a full kazayis. And Shulchan Aruch it's not paskin like this way, not by kiddush, and not by mar. You need to have a full kazayis. But there was such a minig. So someone who had such a minig and he came from such a location, that was his minig. So he has that minig. Al titish teres yimecha. He's allowed to follow his minig. If you don't have that minig, you can't follow that minig, or you stop that minig for many years, or you can always be machmer. And like the ikka halach is a Shulchan Aruch that you have to have a full kazayis. But that was the reason why certain people from maror took a smaller shear, was based on this whole concept that we were talking about. L'maisa, I just want to finish off, that there's a discussion, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach has a tshuva about people that have fillings. People that have fillings, so the metal can technically, it's chametz stick, right? You've eaten chametz a whole year, you've eaten hot foods, and it has a certain absorption of chametz in those metal fillings. Now, it's not really an issue because you clean your teeth well before Pesach, and you don't drink any, if you don't eat anything hot, very hot, it's not an issue. However, some say not to eat any hot foods if you have a filling or braces, not to have any hot chametz food for 24 hours before Pesach, so it should be considered Eini ben Yoimai. However, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach had a discussion whether or not you're allowed to have the chrein on Pesach if you have a filling, because the charifos of the chrein can pull out the absorption even without heat, because bitterness, charifos, can work like heat in pulling out the absorption that's inside metal. So Shaila was about eating chrein. I knew an elder chassid who was machmer on himself. The Shlomo Zalman Auerbach himself actually has many different heterim that he built up to be matter, that it shouldn't be an issue to have chrein on, even if you have these type of pieces in your mouth. If I'm not mistaken, this is a tshuva that he sent when he was younger. He sent to the Chazon Ish, and he wrote him this tshuva, and the Chazon Ish never responded to him, and he was disappointed as why he never got a response from the Chazon Ish. At one point, somehow came across to the Chazon Ish that the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach didn't understand why he didn't get a response, and the Chazon Ish responded, I don't need to answer because his tshuva is ready to answer itself. He wrote already in the tshuva all the different svaras and logic to be matir, and he doesn't need me to tell him how to answer the shaila. Now, on my side, just to make a zeicher, this morning there was a levaya in Crown Heights for an elder chassid of Gedaliah Korf, who was Nebuch Nifter from the virus. He was 90 years old, but he was Nifter from the virus. I had spoken to him mamish this Wednesday morning, and he was a very big Mahader b'mitzvahs. He's the oldest brother in the Korf family. He's the oldest brother from Rapinya Korf and Rav Remmel Korf. And Rav Gedaliah Korf, alav shalom, was always concerned about this. He didn't know about the Tshuva of Shem Zalman Auerbach. He wasn't aware about that. But he on his own was very machmer in Pesach with different hidurim. And he was very concerned about the chrein. And because he had these fillings, I think he didn't want to have the chrein. He would just have the romaine lettuce, which api halacha 100% yaitza with the romaine lettuce, and it's a mitzvah mufchar. So he wouldn't eat the chrein, he would just have the romaine lettuce. So this chumrah is not out of the box. I one time actually mentioned this many years ago to Rabbi Yael Khan, and he told me it's a svara. It's a svara, it's something to this chumrah has a certain logic to it. It's not out there. But ka'amar, like you said before, Rav Shem Zalman Auerbach has a tshuva explaining many different reasons that you could be mitzaref to say that it's not an issue and you could have it. Especially if you wrap it up with the romaine lettuce and you're not really mamish tasting the chrein itself. But anyways, if someone in such a situation is machmer just to have romaine lettuce, it's perfectly fine. Me'ikar hadin, pure romaine lettuce yoytza. And yoytza with a kazayis are both together. So no need to be machmer. And we also b'chlal with the sheer kazayis and marar, what could be more makel the sheer of matzah because marar is midrabanan. So more makel with the sheer kazayis. You don't need to have a full ounce for the sheer kazayis of marar. Matzah, we're much more machmer with the sheer. So everyone should have a kosher for Hilchos and Pesach, and everyone should be gesund. Everyone should have a refuah shleima, and avinu makeinu minah magefa min achlasecha, to remove this terrible magefa from our midst. And shlach refuah shleima l'choyle amecha.
Amen.
Amen. Kol tov. Yes.
I wanted to tell you one more thing. They say I want to say it over b'shem. Someone told me that Rebbe was also makpid on his like not to have fillings and things like that. One of the reasons is because of Pesach.
He didn't have.
He's muffled on having false things. But I didn't have him for a while.
What I know, it's definitely there is definitely a tradition, a private Messiah passed down from Rebbe to Rebbe for their own personal. For the Rebbes themselves, they had a tradition not to have anything fake in their mouth. The Rebbe Rashab, there is a letter from the Rebbe Rashab that we have, where the Rebbe Rashab wrote a letter to his son, the Frierdiker Rebbe. He wrote him a personal letter, which was later published in the set of his set of Igris of letters that later on from his archives. But he wrote to the Frierdiker Rebbe a letter, as is known to you from a time that I told to you once that I don't have any fake things in my mouth. And he didn't, the reason it doesn't say there. However, there was one time the Rebbe Rashab traveled to Preshberg. He was there for health reasons, I think. I don't recall the reason, but I think he was maybe there for the spas and different things. And you know what? It wasn't at Preshberg. I'm sorry. It was in the spas, but he met the Preshberger Rav. The Rav of Preshberg was there. And Preshberg Rav, I think we're Einaklach of the Chassam Sofer.
Yeah, Preshberg. The yeshiva was called Preshberg
now,
after...
Maybe his name was Akiva something, I don't recall.
Yes. Who called it?
Froze?
Thank you, Rabbi.
Ramachol, you left already? Ramachol, where'd you go? Okay.
So Lamaisa was she saw the Rebbe Rashab, her husband, talking a lot with the Preshberger Rav. They were discussing Torah, and so she went over privately to the Preshberger Rav and asked him to influence her husband, the Rebbe Rashab, that he should give up on this chumrah. And Lamaisa, this was not about Pesach. I'm not saying there was no Pesach consideration, but was during the year, and the Rebbe Hashab told the Preshberger Rav that
here.
What's going on?
Ramachol, you there?
It's freezing. His thing is freezing for some reason.
Ramachol, you left?
He's still there, but I guess we can't hear him.
Yeah. Okay, Ramachol, I'll call you. I have a couple of shots.
Probably his battery.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Hello, Tov.
People hear me?
I can hear me. What happened to Rabbi Lerner? He freezes. He froze.
But you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah.
So the story happened is that the Rebbe Rashab told her that when you do a shchita and a korban on a behemoth, right, or a chicken, whatever, and the shechit is a sofek, if it's ruba or not ruba, whatever a sofek is. So chad v'sholom, you ate, let's say it was treif, so you ate one time treif and that's it. But when you have fake teeth in your mouth, it's chshosha d'chshosha all the time. He can't handle it all his life to have chshosha d'chshosha. If you want, you go and join video and you see my father said the story, very, very nice.
Because the Rebbe never had anything fake. I know.
No. It's a chshosha d'chshosha.
Okay.
That maybe when you eat something hot, is blea, and then we eat something milchik, the bolea that was from the chicken went out to the milchik. So it's a chshosha d'chshosha. Because of that, you don't want to have a shalom fake it.
Okay. Have a good night. I gotta go to Meyer for Yechidus Meyer. What are you gonna do?
That will be 10 keches nefesh.
Oh.
That's how Chassidus says.
At least, but by Shachris and Mincha, I get to say all the kabbanas, and there's no rush.
Who's have to be Rosh and Ma'ariv?
No, I'm talking about Shachris and Mincha. Usually I'm buying where they're up the holder already, so I say Rabbi Shloim, and I skip a lot. Here I have no time, no, nothing to skip. Okay,
right.
Good night.
Good night, thank you. Thank you, Yoeli.
Shmulek.
Yeah.
Shmulek.
Yeah, Nishomeh.
I spoke to my older sister today in Rehovot.
Yes.
You know, we spoke a bit, and she said that it's the first year. I told her the first year you're alone with your husband. Usually the kids coming, they're going. She says, no, I'm not alone. So who's coming? She said, the Shechina with us. So nobody's alone.
Oh.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Everybody has.
Kol tov, Rabbi Yazar, kol tov. Sei gesund, everyone. Sei gesund. Ishkoyach Yoel for arranging the shir. Ishkoyach, kol tov.
Thank you.